Hey, this is truly Jacob, a writer, and I'm going to give a summary or an overview of The Snow Queen by Hans Christensen Andersen, illustrated by Marcia Brown. So let's begin. So it starts off where there's imps, whatever, and there's this glass thing, and they're taking it up to heaven. It warps everything to be seen in a different type of view. As they're taking it up to heaven, these imps drop it, it falls to the world, and it makes everything look really, really bad. So these glass particles can get in your eye or in your heart and basically make you see everything in a worse light. And then even act completely different, where like before you could be completely nice and now you're gonna act in a more evil way. And so initially there was this boy and a girl. Gerda was the girl and the boy child was Kay, and they loved spending time together. They were neighbors and they would be out pretty much on the roof or the terrace, and roses were growing, and they both loved the roses. Well, they even saw, stuff in the window and everything. Well, one day, Kay got something in his eye. It was one of these glass particles, and it made him change. And he was no longer nice to Gerda anymore. And he could do all these kinds of different things. He became super smart, like pretty much overnight. Well, eventually, like it was snowing, it was winter, and he had his toboggan or whatever it is called, and a sled came. The Snow Queen was on it and took him away completely to the North Country. And literally, she was like, she kissed Kay, and she was like on the forehead, and was like, if I keep kissing you, I'm gonna kiss you to death. So she stopped kissing him. But literally, she took him to the Snow Country and her palace in the north. Well, Gerda was like, where'd Kay go? And she heard a bunch of villagers saw him go off with his bobbin or whatever it is called, toboggan. And so she began looking for him. Spring was on its way, and she started talking to everything around her and was like, okay, water, flowers, can you help me find where Kay is? Did you see where Kay went? And so she even put her shoes in the water, and they sent the shoes back to her, and she's like, okay, but I really want to know where Kay is. And the water basically took her to this woman's house, or adult girl's house, where she could do magic. And I guess she was lonely, so she wanted Gerda to stay there for a very long time. She lost track, and she hid the roses, and she thought if she hid the roses from her that she wouldn't remember Kay, and then she'd stay around. So one day she forgot to hide all the roses, and she had one in her hat. And so it reminded her, oh yeah, I'm looking for Kay. And then she continued her search, and again was asking flowers and everything around her, have you seen Kay? And then it's like she ended up talking to something. It's like, well, maybe there's this, castle, there's this prince, maybe the prince is Kay. And so she went to, different places. I'm not sure everything that she went to, but it was like like the crow ended up telling her, oh, maybe it's the prince. And then she snuck into the castle. She saw the prince. Oh, I'm sorry, you're not Kay. And the princess was kind of mad, but then when she heard her story, she's like, don't do it again, you know. And then, like, they gave her stuff to be able to go find Kay. And then she was so thankful for the princess and the prince. Seemed like they ended up getting married. And then she was on her way. There were robbers came. They literally stole the stuff. They wanted that stuff for themselves. And then the mother of the robber was going to eat Gerda. But the daughter was like, no, I want to play with her. I want to get to know her. And she made Gerda stay the night with her and shared the same bed with her. But the robbers girl believed not Kay, but Gerda, and was like, okay, I'll help you out. And so she drugged her own mother and let her go off with the reindeer, because the reindeer was from the North Country, because, like, she asked the animals, hey, have you seen Kay? And they told her the Snow Queen took Kay to the North Country, Lapland, and that's where the Snow Queen is. You need to go there. And the reindeer was being kept captive in that area. And so, like, the robber's girl freed the reindeer. It was like, you look after Gerda and make sure she gets to where she needs to go. So then they met the Lap woman, and the Lap woman put something on a skin parchment. And then she went to the Finn woman, and the place was so hot, and literally it was told by the Finn woman to get rid of the glass in Kay's heart and his eye, that she would have to do it by her own power, and that the reindeer could only go so far as to bring her here, and then she would have to go barefoot on her own. And so what ended up happening is she came across alive snowflakes that looked like different creatures. She said the Lord's Prayer, and literally angels came down to protect her, to make it so she could get to the palace. And so she's walking all along through the palace. She finally found Kay, and he was doing some kind of puzzle thing. The queen said, if you can put these letters together in a puzzle form where it spells out eternity, then you can go free and be your own master. So literally, Kay comes, hugs him. He's still acting differently. She cries so much that the heat of her eyes, like, goes into his heart, and it makes it so that glass that got stuck in his heart, like, melts and comes out of him. And then he cries because he starts remembering Gerda, and then the eyeglass thing came out of his eyes, and then he was able to see well enough, and the pattern came with the ice, because there were like ice pattern block things that he was dealing with. They spelled out eternity, so he was free. And then, like, they walked away from the palace, and they ran into the robber girl, and the robber girl, like, took a horse, and she didn't want to be with her mother anymore. It sounded like her mother was really mean. So she's like, I'm going to go north, and was very happy to see Gerda. They celebrated. And then they ended up back at home with the roses, and when they saw the buildings and everything, they realized they had grown up and they were no longer children. So what are the moral lessons of this? I really don't know right now. Except I think this kind of overall story of the Snow Queen is basically like, okay, this would be a good one to teach your children if you have Christian beliefs or religious beliefs. And you could use the illustration. It's important to say your prayers because your prayers actually protect you against evil villains or evil individuals that are in the world, because the angels will come and protect you. I mean, and I mean, I'm really not sure because the stories seem to be all over the place. Like, what morals you get out of this? Literally, a child had to go off and find her playmate by herself. Where were the adults? Why wouldn't an adult be looking for their playmate? Why was it a child only? So, like, the story kind of seems incomplete to me, or it seems like whoever wrote this story, there's a bunch of other stories that were out there, and they literally took a bunch of things from different stories and just compiled it all together. And so it doesn't really make sense to me. I'm not sure. I mean, was it entertaining? Well, I remember years ago I came across a movie called The Snow Queen, and it was done in a different way. It was actually more scarier than the book, and that version of it had like kind of like the Snow Queen had her magic, and there was like the Snow Queen, the Fall Queen, or you know, so there was like four of them. One was in charge of spring, one was in charge of fall, one of them was in charge of like fall or autumn. So spring, summer, fall, and then the Snow Queen was in charge of winter. And there was nothing about like eyeglass going into someone's heart, or I didn't watch it carefully because it was done in a really, I don't know, maybe I felt it like looked evil, it looked scary to me, so I wanted to watch it, but at the same time I didn't, because it seemed like a very scary movie that like a queen would just take someone from a village and like have them be in this snow ice castle, because it's like, I know I couldn't live in an icy place. Like, I would get hypothermia, I would die. So I was just like, it was very scary because I was like, it didn't seem very like realistic at all. And so like sometimes when I watch movies and TV shows or whatever, I'm like, well, here's the science of how things work. If I get too cold, I'd get really sick, get hypothermia, I could die. So like I was very scared that the boy, and he in the movie he looked like a teenager the whole time. I was like very scared that he was going to die because it didn't seem like anyone was feeding them, if feeding the boy or the teenage boy. And then it's like, I think they said Gerda. I don't know. I wasn't sure. It seemed like a really weird pronunciation to me for a name. And I was like, okay, this is a weird name. But it seemed similar to like this story. But she was literally going all around, and she wasn't really eating food and getting proper nutrition. In the book, it's written better because it's like, oh, along the way she's eating food. So she's not just, going from place to place, wandering. She's going through seasons, and she's getting more. There were more it didn't say every time that she got food all the time, but she's at least getting food a decent amount along the journey. So that made me feel more comfortable, like, oh, I enjoyed reading the book better than watching the movie, because the movie didn't show her eating like any food at all the different places that she went to. So it's just like, what did the teenage boy or what did Kay actually eat? It doesn't say he actually ate anything. How was he alive all that time? Was he eating ice? Was that what he was eating? So like part of me is like, I don't know. There's this element of the story could be used to scare people or children into saying their prayers. Because you'd be like, if you don't say your prayers, the Snow Queen's gonna come and get you. You know? So it's like kind of, what's it called? A scare tactic. And if children are being disobedient, then you tell a scary story and it gets them to obey, maybe. Like if you're lucky. So I'm not sure if there's like a bunch of morals. I do like the fact of this story that Gerda cared so much about her friend that was a boy and her neighbor that she went out searching for him, and she cared deeply about this boy her own age, that she basically sought for him and kept looking for him until she found him. And she had the power in herself because her heart was genuine and pure, where she just wanted her friend back, that her own tears were able to melt the glass in her friend's heart and eye somehow, with him being able to cry too, that it set him free from these warped, evil images, and he was able to go back to who he truly is. So I guess that's like the bigger moral of the story, is if there's someone that you love and they change, they used to be a very nice individual or person, that like you're gonna fight for them, right? You're gonna fight for them if they change and start treating you badly. You're gonna fight for them to go back to being that nice person that they were, and you're gonna still love them unconditionally, right? So it's like this story is about not giving up on your loved ones if there was some kind of bad change that happened to someone. It's like, fight for them, like still treat them with kindness, still treat them with love if something bad happened where their character or personality changed a little bit, because they could, you know, they could relearn how to become a nice loving person again. Fight for them and then pray for them, because it's like literally Gerda was going everywhere asking, have you seen him? Have you seen him? Like, where is he? And she was like praying in the process for protection, or whatever the version of the Lord's Prayer is in here that goes with this story. Who knows? There could be different religions have different versions of the Lord's Prayer. So, is there some other kind of moral lesson that you got out of the Snow Queen if you read this book by Hans Christian Andersen? What morals, what lessons can you get out of the story from the Snow Queen? What else? So I hope you liked this video. Feel free to like and subscribe to this channel if you want. Until next time.